So welcome back to the channel, everybody. I hope everybody's had a great weekend. So I've not had much time to get up to the unit this past week. It's been crazy busy at work, so I've not managed to get any footage, unfortunately, on any of the projects. So I thought I'd do a video on the i200 restoration. Some of you guys have probably not seen this from the start. We've had a good few thousand subscribers join the channel over the past few months, so you probably only caught the last few episodes on this car. So this car was brought over from Ireland. I was told over the phone that it was quite solid. It didn't need much work. However, once we got it back and we started assessing the car, that all changed pretty quickly. As you can see here now from the images, as we started to tear the car down, it soon became apparent that the car was mainly made of bodge repairs, fiberglass and filler, lots of old MOT repairs and old welding patches that needed to come out. So yeah, the car ended up needing far more work than we actually anticipated. So what should have been a quick bit of a tidy up and repaint ended up being a full, complete bare shell strip down and a full nut and bolt restoration. So we thought, you know what, let's go all out and let's get it done properly. So here you'll see we've took the engine out of the car. That engine went into storage, and then we started to strip all the engine bay out, all the heater matrix out, all the heater box, stripped all the inner wings, and started to assess all the A-posts once the wings was off. And as you can see there, it was quite rotten behind those A-pillars, and we actually ended up chopping all those A-pillars out. The rear arches was full of old repairs and bodge work. I do apologise, guys, for some of the footage on this. I was using quite a poor camera, or a camera phone even back then. Wasn't really doing much YouTube. This was sort of the early days of my channel, so some of the footage is quite blurry and some of the sound is quite bad. And also back then I wasn't really worried about copyright and stuff like that, so there was lots of music in the background that was giving me copyright stuff. So I have had to try and blank some of this music out and relay sort of uncopyright music over the top of it now, because obviously I don't want any copyright strikes on the channel. So you can see now the engine's out. I'm starting to assess all the suspension, and you can see there that there was quite a lot of rust in this car. So yeah, we ended up completely stripping this down, and then we ended up getting it on to the body turner. So the first part of this episode is just images, because back then I wasn't really recording much on the channel. It was mainly just pictures and just walking around the car. I wasn't really interacting with the camera or getting involved that much in YouTube. I just found it as a great way to document the work that I was doing on my cars, because I do have to sell these cars on at some point. I can't keep them all, and I do need the funds and the space to keep more projects coming in and obviously keep the channel ticking over. So hopefully you'll see as the video goes on, the editing does get a little bit better. I'm still not a fantastic editor and a fantastic YouTuber. I just do what I can and I enjoy doing it. So I hope you enjoy this episode, guys. This is a start to current position of this car. So from basically the day I got it to bring up to speed to where the car is now. So give it a watch. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you all on a new episode very soon. Majority of the restorations we do are in a similar condition on the inside, so you do get people that will just patch them up, like what's going on here, but that's not really putting much strength into the car. So I thought I'd just give you all a quick walk around and show you what this car is going to need. Probably will find other bits and bobs as we go along. We have got a jig that we use which fastens to the anti-roll bar brackets, radiator bracket, chassis mounts, gearbox mounts, and then it gives you the position, the correct position of the lower subframe mounting bolts. Floor pans, they'll be coming from Germany. We're having full floor pans in. Chassis rail parts, the outer skins are coming from TJ Motorsport. The inners are not available, so we've got to make them. I use 40mm box section, which is standing up over there, and then basically just make a template. Rear arch on this side is pretty bad, so we will be having a rear arch on there. Lower rear quarters, these will be getting chopped out. It's had some sort of filler work and stuff in here. Again, just old bodge repairs. This will be chopped out to about here, and then all the way up to this join, and spot welded in, nicely seam welded, blended back. Boot floor's not too bad. Rear panel's got a small hole here, which has been sort of bodged up again with some sort of seam seal or something. Again here, outer sills completely blown out, so we'll be having a pair of full sills put on it. You can see in there, let's get the torch on, that inner in there is completely gone. So that's all going to have to be replaced, repaired. Again, them are not available. So unfortunately that is going to be a lot of fabrication work. Again, chassis rails, both sides, inners and outers. That'll all be coming from TJM along with the jacking points, TJ Motorsport. Jig is now in place. As I mentioned last time, this is going to give the car some support whilst we're doing some cutting and welding. I managed to make this inner section out of 40mm box section, 3mm thickness. It's all been cut, shaped and installed. As you can see, the jigs now give us the correct position for this bolt hole. We have put the sleeve inside there, so that'll be nice and strong. It won't crush when the cross member's tightened up. I've done a bit more scraping on the inner wings. Got some of this old under seal off, so we can actually start to see what we're dealing with now. Lots of old repairs on this car. Previously had wheel arch repairs, which is now rotten again. The plan for today, hopefully, is to get these splashbacks out, get all this lot cut out, start to work out how much of the floor needs to come out, get this new splashback fitted, and then work my way into the floors. Once I've got the floor laid in, I can start to put the outer covers on. So once we've got these covers on, we'll then start to tie it all into the floor, and then start to look at these A-post closing panels and into the A-post outer covers. I've had another afternoon on it today. Lots and lots more rust has been cut out of the car. As you can see, a pile of rust has grown. That's what the inside of the chassis legs look like, even though they look okay from the outside. As I said on one of the previous videos, they do rot from the inside out. So it's always best to just take them off and replace them if you're doing a restoration, because it will bite you in the arse in the not so distant future if you don't do that. Splashbacks are now in. Floor section is in. A-post closing panel is in. And just getting some primer on these bits of bare steel just in case it gets a bit damp in here tonight. It is going to be quite a cold night. And the next step on this car will be to get these gaps filled in. Unfortunately, the rust has gone past where these panels fit to and finish. So I'm going to have to fabricate up some bits of plates in here, get all this finished off tomorrow. Then I'll move up into the sill, get this sill off. Once the sill's off, I can then get my jacking point in. Then we'll get the chassis rail covers on, swan neck covers on, and then start to move down this side. Obviously get the inside of the sill repaired. And then into the rear arches, and then work my way around to the other side of the car. And do it all again on the other side. So I have had people ask me if that is the finished product, as in the finished chassis rail. The answer is no, that's just an inner. That's the inner support, that's where all your strength is. And these go over the top, job off. These will be pushed right down. And the way I install these is we'll use the hole cutting tool, pop a load of holes along here, both sides, same again on the top, and these flanges here, and that'll be spot welded in place. Cuts all the way up here to the A-post, all the way down there, all the way to the end. So this now should pull off. Let's have a look what's inside here. It's not going to be pretty. So that section at the end is not actually too bad. I've seen a lot worse. However, as I've mentioned in a previous video, the inner structure and strength is completely gone. This is very, very common rust area on a manta. Every restoration we do is very, very similar. Up before we go into welding anything in here, I'm going to get some zinc rich primer in all the areas we can get to while we can get to it. So now we'll get it all down inside here, as much in there as we can. We won't be able to get to this obviously when the patches are welded in. Right, so we've got a few tacks on there now, so we'll start to weld it in. I'll also get a weld underneath the bottom here, and then I'll drill through and also get a couple of tacks along the seam. It is a rolled edge on the back of here, so I can get some spot welds in the back just to make it even more strong. Once this is all welded in, I'll then bridge this section across to add the strength into this. Right, so that's the inner section now welded in. That's nice and strong. A hell of a lot stronger than it would have been originally. Okay, it doesn't look like the original, but it is inside the sill, so you're never going to see this again, so I'd rather it be strong than look original. And let's face it, the original ones didn't last very long, because every one I've ever done that's completely rotten. So this one's going to be much stronger, last much longer. Put a little piece out here. This all wants steam welding in. Marked out some other areas that want cutting back. Got this section here to come out. All this section here is going to come out around. Notice a soft spot in this section which I repaired last night. So I'm going to put this out, put a piece in there, make that nice and strong. Done a bit more cleaning up. The underside. Hopefully get this rear arch chopped out. All the way around here. Back panel's been cleaned up a bit. It seems that every previous repair on this car has actually rotten out again. Same again here. Everywhere it's been previously repaired is rotten again. We've also got these bits cut out where the floor was soft, and we've put some masking tape in there. This is what we make the panels with. There is other ways of doing this. This is just the way I like to do it. So I'll put the masking tape from the inside out. Always allow and make sure you leave enough for that bulge in the floor, because otherwise your panel will fall short by the time you cut it. But the good thing about this is, obviously this is the sticky side. So once we've took this off, I've drawn around here with a pen and took a template off that. We will then remove this, stick that to a piece of sheet steel. Once that's flattened out, that should hopefully allow for that roll, the extra bit of panel we're going to need to form that roll there. So all these are masking taped up. This is just the way I like to do it. This was the section we finished last night, so that's all nice and solid. I will be replacing this small section here because I'm not completely happy with that. We've cut the rear wheel arch out as far as we need to get rid of all the rot out of there. I've also removed this section of the inner. I'm going to pull these patches out of here now. I'm going to put them onto a piece of sheet steel, start to cut some plates. We've got our patches cut out, laid on our piece of Zintek sheet. We've drawn around them, so now we'll peel these off. We'll roughly cut them out, and then we'll take them over to the bench grinder and just clean them up, fine fettle them, make them fit nice and tight as possible. And then we'll start to tack them, weld them in, bit of hammer and dolly, keep it from warping, and then we'll move on to the next section, which will possibly be this rear arch. Right, we've got our patches tacked in, knocked out to a decent shape. So all 3 of them in. That were a bit of a nightmare with all these rolls, curves in it. We've drilled some holes in there so we can plug weld that in and get all that tied back together. Same here, we plug them, we give them a bit of a squeeze with the clamps to pull it all nice and tight. We'll seam these up, give them a flat back, and then we'll move on to hopefully the rear arch. I got my brother here giving me a lift tonight, so we're going to remove this jig in a minute, get this out of the way, and then Kevin's going to start to form and reshape all these swan neck covers and the chassis rails, get these ready. So hopefully these jacking points will be here tomorrow, so at least we can get in front with this when the jacking points do come. It won't take long to get that in, and then these are all shaped and all ready to go, which should save me a bit of time tomorrow. We've got all our welds flatted back best we can. Again, this is under the side of the car. Once this is all primed and under sealed, you pretty much won't see any of this. This will pretty much be an invisible repair. So that's all come out pretty well considering how bad it was. Quite happy with that. Right, so as you can see here guys, what I'm doing basically is I've got the panel into a rough position. This is where the sill will finish, so obviously the rear arch needs to be level with this point here. Same again on that point there. This section that was in here was an absolute mile out, so I've had to cut this out just to get the rough height of this new panel. That's in there pretty much banged on. And then what I've done is I've marked the swage line on the car, and your repair panel also comes with a swage line in it. So I've marked swage line on the panel. Same again on this side, and the swage line on the car. I'll now remove this repair panel, continue this line on, because we're going to cut majority of this off, so we're going to lose a lot of this line. So I'll continue this down here. When I put this panel back on, it'll give me correct location for this panel to be laid into. So what I'll do now, I'll scribe around here, I'll draw around here, all the way around, and then I will just trim this rear quarter back ever so slightly to suit the panel now. So we're happy with that, that's in a good position, reasonable size. Let's get to cutting. There's plenty of tact on there, as you can see, them lines we put in earlier. The reason we did that to make sure it's in the correct orientation, just helps out when you're laying this panel back in to start tacking it. Pretty tight all the way around there. Now, the trick with this is you can't just go at this, start seam welding it and going all the way around with your welder, because again, you're just going to warp the living hell out of all of this. So it's a case of just keep tacking it, nice and slowly, work little sections at a time, bit there, bit here, bit there, bit there, bit there, just keep coming round to different sections so you're moving that heat around the panel rather than just putting some extreme heat in one section. All these sections will be cut out. Obviously this will become part of the sill. The sill will come to here, so the sill will replace this lower section of the arch, so this bit isn't actually needed. Obviously the sill goes all the way across here, so all that'll be replaced as part of the sill cover. This section here, again, this will be replaced with a lower rear quarter section all the way around here, and we'll also put some pieces in here. This has had a previous repair which is not very good, so we'll cut this out and we'll lay a nice piece in there. All this needs reshaping, all down the edges here, same again down here, and then we're going to tie this section to this section of the inner A-post to make it nice and strong. Once we've got this in place, then we can start to lay our chassis rail over it, get this fastened down, and then we can start moving on into the swan neck cover. Again, these aftermarket panels don't fit particularly well, so you just got to do what you've got to do and make them fit. So we're getting these somewhere near now. We've flattened out all these edges, flattened out all these edges, flattened out these edges. Once this is tacked in, we'll then dollar this floor back up against this to get this all nice and tight. See there, that fits pretty well now. We did have to trim little bits out of these edges earlier on just to make those fit nice and tight against this jacking point. That's now sat down nice and tight. We'll start to get a couple of spot welds in and we'll dolly this down a little bit, and we'll also dolly the floor back up to this just so it's nice and tight, everything's in. We'll also plug weld it in both ends and in the top there. That should be plenty strong enough. Oh, should be somewhere near. As you can see now, this is now butted up. It's no longer overlapping. Still a bit of a ways out that, so we'll start to get into this section here now. We'll pop our holes in here just as we did with the last section. Once we've got them holes in, start to get some tacks on it, start to get it laid in. Got Kevin here, going to start chopping crap stuff out of this. He's going to now fabricate this piece, filler panel to join this jacking point to the inner A-post. Got Tom over there prepping the rear of the car for the next stage. So we'll let Kevin make this bit. I'm going to crack on getting this fully welded in, tidying it up a bit. 3 of us on the car today, so hopefully we can get some good progress. Half a day in. Let's see what we can get done. So that's going to go in there like that, and we're going to weld all this in. That's going to be absolutely solid. Once that's done, Kevin's then going to turn his attention to this section that we've now got to make, fabricate. Give it a little bit of a curve. I'm going to check that on the car, see if that's enough. I'll have to give this bit a bit more stretching, I'd say. Good curve shot, not a million miles out. Just we've got to trim this back, we're just getting the shape right at this point. So with this piece of paper, we place that on. Obviously you're wearing gloves. Gloves in this kind of job do get dirty. So with that dirty glove, rub these edges all the way around, and that'll give you, as you can see there, the shape that you need to cut out to form this panel. So then what we'll cut this template out. That'll butt us up to these edges. Once we've cut that out, then we need to follow this edge here, put a piece in this. So that's all now fabbed up, fits pretty well. We've got a return edge on it where we can spot weld this now onto the top of the chassis rail there. So that should tie in nicely. Plonk that in. Clips in, should go in nice and tight. All the way into there. And then that edge there is where we can spot weld it in. This is going to be our folded up edge that will tap into this corner, and then we'll grind this edge flat once we've got all these spot welds in and make it all nice and tidy. So what we're going to do now, we're going to get these spot weld clamps. You can see over the top here. These are brilliant for squeezing the panels together. They clamp on there like that. Pulls your two skins together and leaves you a hole for you to get a nice little spot weld into. We've got this patch all tacked in, it's all butted up, it's all nice and tight all the way around, both sides. We've got our spot welds in, it's nice and tight up here. We've made a return flange there which will be pushed into that corner and welded in. As we said again in the previous video, these are handed. This is the wrong side because you only get a pair for that side, so we have had to do a hell of a lot of fabrication work on this one to get it to fit. Right, so we've got our patch seam welded in there. It's over the other side, spot welding across the chassis as we did yesterday. So that's ready for grinding back now. We've laid our sill on. We've got it into a rough position, as you can see there. Now what we're going to do, Tom's going to start drilling some holes, and we're going to put some small self-tappers in here to hold this section in. And then this needs folding down slightly flatter across here because they do come on a bit of an angle, so this needs forming down a bit. So we're going to get some screws across there, and then we're going to start to run some screws across this edge, and then we're going to remove our clamps. We're going to roll the car over, and then we're going to mock up a door, try a door on, check all the panel gaps are right, and then we can start to chop all these bits out, trim these bits that need to come out, and then start tacking our sill into position. Right, so you can see there we've got our screws in, some along this bottom edge, some along this top edge. This is all fitted in pretty well now, pretty tight all the way across. Got a couple of screws in this back section here. This is going to be cut off anyway and butt welded to the rear quarter. Obviously these holes will be plug welded back in. Right, so we've mocked our sill up, we've tried a door on, it seems to fit pretty well. So what we've done now is we've scribed our lines, you can see the line there, and then we've scribed our lines down here, and also across there. So this is going to be our cut line now to suit our sill panel. So what we're going to do now is we're going to blow some more primer in all of this, and we're going to get some paint in there as well just for extra protection. And then what we're going to do is we're also going to clean up all the inside of this. We're going to prime and paint inside of this sill as well, so that's nice and protected for when the sill goes on, because once it's on it ain't coming back off. Right, so we've put some primer in there, some zinc rich primer. We've also put some satin black paint just for extra protection. So that's all now nicely protected. We've also done the inside of the sill, which is over there. So Tom's going to lay this on now, and let's see how it lines up with our cut lines. Same as we come around here, that'll go in there nice and tight. We can just start to dolly this down a little bit so it's nice and smooth and flush. Same again across there. Then we have our rear water section there, which we've cut out. And again, that's going to fit in there nice and tight. Once we've got this welded in, we can then start to put a little bit more weld into this rear arch. As I said earlier, there's quite a lot of play still in that. So this will give that a little bit more strength. Once this is seamed across there, we can start putting some more weld into that. We've got our sill cover on there. It still wants some tidying up, still wants a bit of grinding back and stuff. This is just a quick rough flat down. You can see there where we've spot welded it across that top edge. Obviously these spot welds still need to be ground back. We've welded it there into our rear quarter panel. Again, it still wants a good grinding back. This is just a rough flat off with a grinder. We'll get the little roll lock tool and some other bits and bobs in there to finish that off. So that's the door on. As you can see there, door gap's pretty good. And we've got quite a nice even gap all the way across that lower edge there. This can always be slightly altered. Obviously with the door striker, this can be moved up or down if we need to when we build the car and put it all back together. But for now, that's a pretty good gap. As you can see, we're moving along pretty well now with this. We did the sill on the last video. Since then, I've actually flatted back the spot welds on here, cleaned this underside up. This is now looking pretty good. It's nice and tight all the way along there. We're happy with that. So we've made our cuts, same as we did with the rear arch. We've actually made the cut above our line, just so we know we're not going to go too far past the size of our repair panel. We've also cut a section out of this boot floor, because, as you can see there, this has had previous welding. It's not very good at all. So we've cut that out. So we're going to start with making a patch for this with a return edge. We're going to put a return edge all the way across here as well. So this patch will go return edge from there and a full patch of a return edge all the way up to there. That'll give us an edge to spot weld our repair panel from the wheel arch to, and also the return edge for our rear quarter section. We line that up to our edge. We clamp it down, just lift it up. Right, so we've got our patch in there, which we just fabricated using the sheet metal folder. Got our return edge in there, and we've put some holes in ready for the plug weld. We've also made a return edge onto this section, which we didn't cut out, but this edge was rotten out, so we just put a return edge onto the edge of that. We've also cut our repair panel down to size. We've now got that tacked in all the way along here, right around this corner. I've cut this section out here because that again was a really soft spot, so I'll put a nice little piece in here and I'll create this top panel, top edge of this rear panel there, and I'll put that small folded edge back into that just so it continues that nice line all the way across. So we've got this rear quarter section all welded in now and ground back. This is obviously going to need a little bit of filler work. I'm not quite skilled enough to get that down to the point where it's ready for paint. I'm not that good, but pretty happy with that. That's gone in really well, considering I've still got to weld up this rear arch panel. This is still only tacked in, I'm going to keep working my way around this, but yeah, that rear quarter section's gone in really well. Our patch over the top, again, that's gone in pretty well. We've got our spot welding down this side. There is a weld down here where I had to join that return flange on to this section that was missing. That still needs grinding back. Right guys, so we've got our fillet plate spot welded in there. We fabricated a panel for this section. I've been saying I'm going to get that done for a while, so I'm quite happy that's now in. It wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. So we'll get all this welded. Well, this is only going to stay spot welded, but all this bit needs seam welding in and grinding back. We've also had to fabricate a piece that goes right down there, and it came across to about here because all this was gone, so I've done that. We fabricated a piece up into the inner wing there as well. That's now been ground back. These areas are really difficult to do. There's so many folds and bends and rolls and stuff in the steel. It is quite a hard area of the car to repair, this section, so there is going to be some filler work have to be done in this section. I'm not going to get this completely 100% mint. I'm just going to get it as best as I can, and then I'm going to have to just put a bit of a smear of filler over here just to level it out and just get rid of these little welding edges. Bit of a flattening session done. So we've welded our chassis railing, we flattened it all back. I've finished welding this section in there, and I've just ground back all the seam welds, all the plug welds that we've done. It's not looking too bad. I'm just going to throw some primer on there while I'm at this point. Managed to get these sections plated up, as I mentioned in an earlier clip. So that's now done. What happened, as I was grinding this section out, I come across a bit of filler. I give it a few knocks with a hammer, and it turned out there was actually a large hole in here, around about the size of a 10p piece. It had actually been filled with body filler. So I ended up actually cutting out a triangle section of this onto the scuttle panel. I ended up fabricating a piece and welding that in there. I also came across some filler in the windscreen channel. Again, that was holed, so I ended up cutting out this section here up to around about here, and I've had to make a piece for that. I managed to get this rear arch tacked in. There's lots of tacks gone in there. Again, I'm going to keep coming back to this, same as the other side, just keep putting bits in. I still need to seam weld this section here. I've done some flatting on this sill. Again, this was done in a previous episode, but there's some of these welds I hadn't flatted back, so I've now got all this nice and tidy. So we've cut these patches out here. Again, I thought I'd cut the rot out of this, and then again, as I started grinding further back, it actually looks, if you can see in there, this whole lower section has all been made from filler. so I'm going to have to cut the whole complete section of this out from the inside. I'll just get this section completely gone, and then I'll repair this from the inside properly. It's now in primer on the underside. So on the last episode, basically we'd got most of this done, and we'd moved into the rear sections down here. Basically, there was just a couple of little patches that needed doing on the rear quarter, on the lower rear quarters and the lower rear panel. I've now done that. I've not bothered doing a video on it because it's nothing you haven't seen before. It didn't justify doing an episode on those little bits. It's basically just what you've seen on previous episodes, just making patches from bits of cardboard templates, welding them in, grinding them back. So I've got that done, and now we've moved on to this section. So the whole underside now has been primed in zinc rich primer. This is to hold back any flash rust. We did treat it with phosphoric acid beforehand, but I just wanted to get some primer on there. So this is now looking a hell of a lot better. You probably notice here as well, I'm just starting to do some seam sealer. I'm using brushable seam sealer on this car. It took forever doing it with a tube. The tubes don't last long. I'll be forever just changing tube after tube after tube. So I've got a nice big tub, brushable seam sealer. I'm going to put this on as nice as I can, nice and neat as I can. By the time this is all under sealed with the bed liner, you won't see much of this anyway. This is just to seal any gaps between the panels that we've welded and any old seam sealer we've pulled off during the preparation for this. First coat of seam sealer done. I'll probably go over this again and get it all doubled up with that seam sealer. It does set quite thin, this stuff, so I always like to put a couple of coats on. So the next stage is going to be, we're going to put another coat of seam sealer on this. Then we're going to 2-pack prime or epoxy prime the whole underside of the car. Once we've done that, we're going to go over it with a bed liner, and that should be the underneath done. Right guys, so we've got the primer on and the under seal is now done. It's looking pretty well. We've decided to go body colour on this particular one. Normally just do it in like a satin black or a matte black, but on this car decided to go body colour. So that is now the welding all done on the i200. Pretty happy with that. This is the start of another evening, and this evening you join me on the Opel Manta restoration project. I've not looked at this car now for over a week because I've been absolutely hammered at work, and usually I get up here most evenings to get a couple of hours at least done on my cars, and obviously I come up at a weekend as well, sort of a Saturday morning and a Sunday evening. I've been that busy at work, I haven't been here for over a week, so it's the first time I've seen this for a week, and I forgot just how well this is looking, and actually I forgot just how far we'd got on the last episode. So some good news, the engine is now back from the engine builder, and I'll show you that very shortly, and I'll talk you through exactly what that engine has had. And in this episode we're actually hoping to get that engine put back together. I have had the short block rebuilt with all new components, and again in this episode what we are going to be doing is hopefully getting the cylinder head back on, and then we've got our full rear axle rebuilt. We have stripped the diff, the crown wheel and pinion and everything out of here. We've had the half shafts out, we've cleaned all the tubes out, we've cleaned all the bearings, basically re-greased everything. We've had new gaskets on there, all new nuts and bolts. We've got the panhard rod in, again with all nice new shiny nuts and bolts. We've got the nice refurb billies on the back as well. We've got new drums, new shoes. We actually fitted new rear wheel cylinders in there as well, and that's those new bolts you can see there. You can just about see the new wheel cylinders popping out the back of the drum backing plates. So them are all ready to go. We've got the shoes all adjusted up, we've got the handbrake cable in, we've got the trailing arms on, we've got the torque tube in place, and the rear axle cross member is in as well. So on the last episode we made quite a lot of progress on this, and I'm really happy with the way this has turned out. It's actually turned out far better than I ever thought it would do, to be fair. And again, this is the first car I've ever actually done in body colour underneath, and I had my doubts, but I think it was definitely worthwhile doing the underside of this car in body colour. Right, so here we have our 2 litre Cammin Head engine back from the engine builder. You'll see there it's had new pistons, all 4. It's been bored out to a 0.5mm overbore, or an oversized piston. And the reason for that was because we had some grooves and some gouging in the bores originally. So they bored this out and they put some slightly oversized pistons in there, along with new rings. The top of the head has been slightly resurfaced. Very, very light skim on the top of that head, just to get that mating surface nice and clean. So I'll roll it over. As you can see, the block has also been completely stripped down to bare metal, primed, painted and lacquered. That is on a previous episode when we did that. If I roll it over for you, you'll see in the bottom there as well, we've had the crank has been out, the crank's been repolished, it's been balanced. You can clearly see there the new pistons through the bottom as well. It's got new mains and new shells, and it's all been torqued to spec. So there's a little bit of cleaning up needed on these mating surfaces here, but it doesn't look too bad. We'll give that a little bit of a scuffing up. We've got a full new gasket set over there. Before I get the sump on, I actually need to put the front timing cover on. I've just painted that. I'll show you that very, very shortly. We've got some goodies back from the paint shop as well, which I'll go through with you very soon also. So I'm going to roll this back the right way around. Hopefully now our timing cover is dry. And the first thing we need to do is get the timing cover on here with all the new gaskets, and then we can drop the head on top once that timing cover is on. That needs to go on first, then we can drop our head on, obviously with all the new gaskets. So let's get that done. Now, there we go. So she's all now built back up. Got all my bits and bobs here ready to go. So we've got our gearbox there. We just need to put some bits back on the box. So we've got to get the gear selector back on here. There's a couple of bushes that are worn out, so I need to figure out something with those bushes because I don't have any new ones, and I don't actually think new ones are available. Alright, I might just have to move this. At the prop now, we have these tabs Kevin has got in his hand. These tabs just basically slide over the little U-bolt type things, and then if you look just on here, once you've got your nuts on, there's a couple of little flanges there that you just tap back over the nut just to lock the nut in place to stop it coming loose. But I'm wearing gloves to stop stuff getting dirty. You're wearing dirty gloves making clean stuff dirty. Tabs on there. They're not? No, you get that one.
You don't trust me, do you?
No.
I hope you hit it yourself.
Well, you're telling me that you want me to do that bit because you don't want to damage it, and the next thing you want to hit the nice shiny crop shaft.
Yeah,
so I will take the hammer, thank you very much. There we go. Oh, got the mount on, filter in, brand new Bosch fuel pump. All the brackets been zinc plated as well. So now we've got all our clips on the fuel lines. We've got one last clip to put on up here. Kevin's just going to cut these pipes to the correct length. We have marked them up so we know which that they are going to be long enough. I'll get the pipe cutter in there. So I'm just going to lower this car down now. I'll take you for a little look up in the top with the engine in the engine bay. And I'll tell you what's to come next. So there we have our nice shiny engine in our nice shiny, freshly repainted engine bay. How good's that looking, guys? And that's come out absolutely mint. Starter motor on, alternator on. Also, we've got to get our dizzy on yet as well, and all the pipe work. So coming next for this car, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to mask up the hole underneath of this car so all this nice shiny stuff doesn't get covered in dust and overspray. And then I'm going to get Tom to come down, our body man, start to prep all the inside of this shell and get it all painted in body colour inside. So the whole inside of this shell is going to go into the same white as the underside and obviously the engine bay. Once all the inside of the car is painted, I can then get the fuel tank in, finish off that pipe into the fuel tank. I can get my brake servo in, which we've got painted all ready to go on. Once the servo's on, we can then start to run our wiring loom through. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to rewrap the whole loom so it looks nice and tidy. We can get all the inlet manifold on, the exhaust can go on. We can get our dizzy in, we can get everything wired up. And then at that point, obviously we can bleed the brakes. And there shouldn't really be anything stopping us getting this car running and driving. Once we've got it running and driving, then it just comes down to getting the shell painted, really, and that's going to be one of the things that I'm going to struggle with, because there's not many people that want to paint a whole car anymore. A lot of these garages now, a lot of these paint shops are just doing insurance stuff, you know, bumpers, wings and stuff like that. So might struggle trying to find someone, but I'm sure we will get somebody willing to paint the whole car. Once it's painted, then just a case of throwing it all back together. We've got the whole interior ready to go back in. And yeah, all the nuts and bolts and everything are all zinc plated, ready to go back in as well. We've got the dashboard and all that sort of stuff all cleaned up, ready to go, which is all up on the shelves up there. We've got our steering column ready to go back in as well. So yeah, it should be coming on pretty quickly, this car, in the very near future. So I'm going to leave this one here, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have liked this video, please give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you all on the next video.